Hello there, and welcome to this little vocal playthrough of my track Mørklagt. I've been wanting to make this video for quite some time already, because I keep getting questions about how I do my screaming voice. So I thought I would make a video on the subject, giving you a little bit of tips and tricks on how to find your own screaming voice in a safe manner. So without further ado, this is my vocal playthrough of Mørklagt. I hope you can find it useful. Around 14-15 years old when I started to get more into music and therefore also vocals. And it was about a year or so later that I started to take my first vocal classes. I can remember very well the first years of vocal classes. I was absolutely terrified. I kind of hated it, to be honest, just because I used to be so afraid of singing for anyone, even myself. Like, I didn't even dare to listen to my own voice. So it was a really big transition for me to sing for other people. So I still feel very shy about it now, but obviously after many years of doing it and being on stage and feeling that I master the techniques a bit better now, it really helps. Without going into too much nerdy detail here, for me there's like three main pillars of singing, which is body posture, breath management, and muscle support. So the main one here being breath management. Basically we like to talk about diaphragmatic breathing when we sing, so our breath that we move down into this area of the body versus how we normally breathe more from our chest area. It's also about how you manage the airflow, meaning that you don't just let everything out at once, but you learn how to distribute the air in a smart way compared to what you're singing, being it clean voice or screaming voice. Problems with the screaming voice and people trying to find it on their own is that they try to emulate their favorite singers. So the main issue with this is that basically you're trying to copy an emotional expression. So your approach to doing the scream will be emotional and not technical based. The emotion while screaming is usually channeling anger, frustration, tension. And tension is basically something we absolutely don't want in any form of singing, clean or screaming alike. So when you try to copy your favorite singers without having the technical base to do so, it does often end up creating tension, which is going to damage the voice. So when I first started screaming, I actually was in the studio with a friend of mine, and I literally just tried, and that's what came out on our first try. I think this is due to the fact that I already had all the basics of singing technique down, so my body kind of already knew the mode to get into. But to be able to find that sound can be a little bit tricky, and I have struggled a little bit with explaining that to people in the past. I recently came across a very interesting way of like finding the feel and the sound of this screaming voice, which I would like to share with you today. It's basically you combine two different sounds. So you combine the sound of vocal fry, which is basically this like low creaking sound. It sounds something like this. Which is quite creepy. And but it's very healthy for the voice. That you can do this like as a warm-up. You can do it like as much as you want and it won't damage anything. That, and you combine it with basically the break between what we call the chest voice, the voice that is resonating when you speak, and the head voice, the kind of more like, falsetto type opera high voice. And the combination of these two can lead you to find this kind of screaming sound. So I'm going to try to demonstrate. Bear with me, it's not pretty. But basically you start with the break sound. So you're going to play with the area where your voices meet. So it sounds like this. So you see, like, it sounds terrible. So I recommend to do it when you're on your own, like I am. So basically, you want to experiment with this kind of like yodeling almost sound, and you want to move it up and down your register. Then, I mean, you could already hear a little bit of distortion coming in there. So you're gonna add this vocal fry, this kind of sound to it. And it's going to sound something like this. So you can already hear that there are little parts in there that sound almost like a screaming voice. And if you add then the muscle support from the diaphragmatic muscles that are in this region, like we spoke about in relation to the breathing, it will sound something like this. And the more you add the support, the more distorted it gets. And you can play with the balance between the vocal fry and the like yodeling sound, depending on how much distortion you want to put on your voice. In addition to the technique I just showed you on how to actually find the sound of the screaming voice, I have a few extra tips I would like to give you that can help you take care of your voice in a good way. So before you start practicing screaming, warm up. And yes, that means warming up with scales and everything you would if you were warming up for a clean voice. It's really important because we want to work on opening up the throat, which is the resonance chamber, even for screaming, because we don't want to start out with tension already in our throat, because that is going to cause damage to your cords. So warm up, open your throat. I also would advise you to basically focus a lot on the breath, like we spoke about, moving it down at your stomach, taking deep breaths. The support, the muscle support from these diaphragmatic muscles are really important when you do the screaming, to make sure that your body is really working with you. And otherwise, just relax. It's not really the most easy thing to do when you're doing something that's so intense, but basically, like I said before, tension is the death of any voice, so we really want to try to keep it soft and relaxed even when we're screaming. Otherwise, stay hydrated, drink a lot of water. It's good for your vocal cords to keep them smooth. And if something hurts, if you feel any discomfort at any moment, just stop. It means that you're not doing it correctly, and you can cause damage to your vocal cords if you continue screaming that way. So I recommend you to stop, maybe consult someone that knows how to use the technique, and then you can continue practicing. And that's it, basically. You just have to continue practicing, not be afraid to make ugly noises, because in the beginning it can be a little bit of a trial and error thing. And just, keep at it. Thank you so much for stopping by this little vocal playthrough today. I really appreciate you taking the time to check it out. I hope you found it useful and that it gave you a few tips on how to do all of this in a safe way. So take very good care of yourself out there, and I can't wait to see you at a concert whenever that will be safe to do again. In the meantime, stay safe.